Good evening and welcome everybody to the Canadian Football Fanatics Weekly Show, episode number 9. Can you believe it already? 2 months into the season, the month of August begins tomorrow, and as always, some Canadian football to be talked on Wednesday night. Blake joining me once again. Blake, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, no, it's definitely crazy to think about. I was thinking about it the last couple of days. I'm like, man, Cole's got to release his power rankings again here soon. It's kind of crazy how fast it's gone by. This big trip that I got planned with a couple of our buddies from the Piffles podcast, Steve and Alex. That's rapidly coming up. We're trying to convince one more friend, one of the co-hosts of the Turf District, Kayla, to join us as well. But we'll see if that works out or not. But yeah, no, at the beginning of the season, it was week 12 and it looked so far away. And now it's like, holy shoot, we're going to blink and it's going to be here. So it's definitely exciting times.
Great couple will be here and gone before we know it. But I'm glad you mentioned power rankings will be out after this week. So, after the 4 games this weekend, I'll be releasing my power rankings 3.0, probably about Monday, Tuesday, or something like that. Seeing as that Monday is a holiday, I'm sure I'll have some time to record Monday. So, probably record a video Monday, make a little graphic, and then have it to you guys on Tuesday. So stay tuned for that. Should be a lot of fun to see who's moving up, who's moving down in Cole's slash the Canadian Football Fanatics Power Rankings 3.0. But as I was saying, man, 2 months into the season, the month of August next tomorrow. I can't believe how time is just flying by right now. Obviously, we've been doing a lot more shows than just 9, going back to the start of kind of our new turnover into the Canadian Football Fanatics with all the off-season content and stuff like that. But already 9 live shows every Wednesday night, so it's just been crazy how fast these have been flying by, and we'll be in double digits next week. It'll be fun. So as always, folks, we're gonna get into it with a little 3-minute drill, so you guys know what happens around here for the 3-minute drill. Blake and I quickly recapping last week's action in 3 minutes or less. So let's get going. We had the Montreal Alouettes led by Caleb Evans, led by Davis Alexander with a second half comeback to bring the Montreal Alouettes back to win 20-16 over Saskatchewan last week. Very interesting game. I was only able to tune in for the first half. Saw the score, Saskatchewan going up, going into the room with the lead, and then I don't know what happened to Davis Alexander. I missed the whole second half there of him coming in, slinging it around. From what I understand, I believe I don't know if it was 12 for 12 or 13 for 13, whatever he was going there.
12 for
But he was
12, I
on a
think.
heater. Yeah, he was on an absolute heater. I believe he threw 2 touchdown passes in there as well. So some impressive stuff from Davis Alexander, getting the Montreal Alouettes their 6th victory of the season. On Friday night, we had the Ottawa Red Blacks blow out the Calgary Stampeders, and I believe this is the second week in a row. Drew Brown's looked pretty well. I believe the following week there he had the 460 yards. This week he had over 300 once again. Khalil Pimpleton is kind of turning into somewhat of a star as we know it, and it has been nice to see Dominic Rhymes be featured here a little bit more in the last few weeks as Lions fans, Lions supporters. It was kind of a little bit weird to see him be so quiet here through the first few months of the season, but I think he's starting to gain a connection with his quarterback Drew Brown, and as well as they got a nice receiving core. Justin Hardy as well making some plays. Obviously Jalen Acklin, the Ottawa Red Blacks getting to 5-2, I think has been very
Yeah.
quiet, not talked about enough around the CFL. So on a Saturday we had the Toronto Argonauts win an ugly one in overtime versus the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I feel like that game nobody wanted to win, as well as another costly Nick Dembski turnover once again that cost the Bombers. So are the Bombers dead? We will talk about it in a few moments here, folks, but it sure seems, maybe it's on life support. I will finally admit it is do or die for the Bombers here pretty soon. That being said, they fall to 2-5 on the season, 2-6, excuse me, on the season. And the last game of the year, or last game of the week, we had the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I know it looked much closer, but blow out the Edmonton Elks. Thanks to a late run by Tre Ford. I believe in 10 minutes or less there, he scored three
Yeah, it
touchdown
was.
passes to make the game a little bit closer than it seemed. But Hamilton really dominated that game for most of the majority of that game. It was great to see Trey come in and work his magic late, do his thing. lead the Elks and make it look a little bit more respectable than it was that game. We will get into that a little bit more as well. But lastly, another great effort, I believe, by Mitchell. Well, 5 touchdown passes. I believe actually I saw that was his career high. So kind of turning back the clock here so far this season with another impressive effort, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats get their second win in a row to go to 2-5 on the season. So that will do it for the 3 minute drill. Blake, I will throw things back to you, buddy. How or what maybe is the first thing that jumped out to you from last week's action?
I told you so. I told all three of you so. The Elks are not going to win a game until Tre Ford starts. Oh, look, Tre Ford is starting this week. Surprising how that happens. Like, they got absolutely destroyed until Ford came into the game with 10 minutes left. I told you guys it was going to happen. All three of you went against me. And I'm the one that walked out of the week with a perfect 4-0 record.
I was gonna say you will get your flowers later on. I can't believe the Elks duped me once again to picking them and doing me wrong once again. But the Elks are gonna keep elking. We will talk about that in news and notes here in a little bit. But quickly here before we bring in the boys, to start news and notes here, I did want to get your opinion, not CFL related, but Canadian football related. I'm sure you know where I'm going to go with this, and I'm interested to hear what the boys are going to say once we bring them in here in a few moments. But Canadian quarterback Nathan Rourke was waived from the New York Giants earlier in the week. I believe he has a workout scheduled sometime maybe this week or maybe next week with the Atlanta Falcons. So I'm sure you know as many. Um, I'm going to try to keep this short because I don't want to take too long before we introduce the boys here. But just super frustrated. I think um, these things are so unfortunate just because a lot of the NFL game comes down to politics and stuff like that with situations, regimes, all that sort of stuff. I believe I saw a tweet. I forgetting who it was from that said, Nathan Work's one of the top 15 best quarterbacks in the world or whatever. Which I don't think I can get on that bandwagon. But what I would wholeheartedly believe in is that Nathan Work is one of the best 40 to 35 and under best throwers in the entire world. And I think there is a spot for him in the NFL. It's just unfortunate because a lot of these regimes, whether it's they just drafted a quarterback, they don't want to get fired, or maybe it's they're on the verge of getting to a Super Bowl, they want to go with a veteran over this young guy who's basically virtually unproven outside of some preseason games and a CFL experience. So it's just unfortunate, but to keep it kind of short before we bring in the boys here, what are your kind of thoughts when you saw the news, and just what are you thinking overall of for Nathan?
Yeah, it was really disappointing to see that Nathan was cut again. The only good thing about it is that it happened so early in camp. Like, it was really camp hadn't really started yet. I know you're kind of more into the NFL stuff than I am. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I'm a huge Seahawks guy, but until preseason starts, and even then, it's debatable. With me in the NFL, it's almost wake me up in September when the regular season starts. But I know they only had a couple practices. I believe it was Dave Naylor tweeted out that he wasn't surprised by this at all. Nathan didn't get any reps with the first team, the second team, or the third team, I believe. I think he was just doing side drills. He never did the team drills. So it sucks for Nathan. I mean, the talk was, is he going to come to the CFL? Is this kind of it for him? That was kind of the X talk after it happened. Clearly, that's not going to happen yet. If he doesn't find a job by the end of this year, the end of this calendar year, really, going into 2025, then I think he will come back to the CFL. But it was pointed out by our friend Sheldon Jones at Two and Out. I know a couple other people pointed it out as well that I believe if Nathan just dresses for 6 games this season or something like that, like he doesn't even have to play a snap as long as he dresses as just the third string quarterback, I believe, he'll get a lifetime or a
Pension.
5-year NFL pension, something like that. So there's really no reason for Nathan to give up on his dream yet. He's so young as well. You got to remember, I believe Nathan Rourke is actually younger than you and I. He's what, 24, 25 years old? Something like
I,
that.
I I don't know exactly how old he is, but I know he is younger than us, which is crazy. But to bring the boys in here, which I'm gonna kind of throw it all to everybody here, is we're gonna play the if game here, kind of the speculation game here. I tend to believe that I don't think I think there is some pressure here for Nathan to kind of shit or get off the pot, if you will, in terms of I guess capturing his dream of being an NFL player. That being said, I still think he's going to try to get into a camp next year if he doesn't go this year playing. Now, that being said, I'm going to throw it to the boys here. If he were to come back to the CFL, where do you think he's going to land? As we bring the boys in here, we'll bring in Coach Phil first. Coach, thanks for joining us tonight. How you doing, my man?
I'm living, man. I'm living. How's everybody doing?
We're doing
We're
good.
doing good. We're doing good. Excited to talk some Canadian football. We'll bring in Shane next. Shane, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Oh, Shane, you there?
Not bad. How are you
Shane,
guys
you
doing tonight?
good, man. We're excited to talk some football as always. And as we're talking, I saw you guys were listening backstage. I'll throw it to Coach Phil first. If Nathan was to come back to the CFL, where do you think he lands?
Okay. Ooh, well, first, Blake, love you. Uh, here's the thing.
Always.
Always. So here's the thing. I've had some time to ponder over this. I think Nathan has to come back to the CFL, prove a little more that he can still do it. A lot of people forget Doug Flutie, the greatest quarterback to ever step foot, possibly debatable. In my book, not, but in the CFL, he was in the NFL first, got ran out, came to the CFL, went back to the NFL, had some success. I think Nathan might have to do something similar to that, where he only showed what he could do for what we'll see most of the season, got hurt, came back too early for the playoffs. Like Nathan has to do that. The big thing that I had a debate with people about in my DMs is he going to come back to BC? I don't
I
want him.
don't think so.
I don't want him back in BC. It's Vernon's team. And people are upset about oh, you're being messy and oh, that why you got to be that way. Like, no, do you know that offense now is so predicated for Vernon Adams' talent and the pieces around it? They're two different quarterbacks. That's just me personally. I want to see Vernon do it. I want to see Vernon be a starter. Vernon has paid his dues. Let him roll. If you paid the man till what, 2025, 2026?
I believe so. 2026, I believe.
Yeah.
2026. It's his team. Let Vernon run the team. Why would you want to bring Nathan? Yes, Nathan had a great season. He did his thing, but they didn't win. And Nathan got hurt. Let him go to Winnipeg. Kalaros is out of
Oh,
here soon. Yeah. Yeah. No, 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 no,
easy,
no.
coach. You're
No,
gonna
no,
send him to
no.
Winnipeg.
You want the truth. You want the truth. I'm gonna give it to you. I see Nathan Rourke going to Winnipeg and taking the reins from Zach Kalaros. They got some young pieces there. The offense under Buck Pierce is perfect for him, and they'll protect him. They'll have a set line for him. They've got some young, high-flying receivers right now. That's the perfect spot for him. He's going to Winnipeg. It's either Winnipeg. I for damn sure hope he don't go to Scamilton, because if you go to Scamilton, I have to light him up. But I like Nathan. I really like him. But I think Winnipeg is where he's going to end up. He's going to reset the market. It can't be he who not be named be the highest paid quarterback. It needs to be Nathan. Nathan's going to get a mill. He's going to make him do it, and they're going to market around him. That's just how I see it.
All right,
Great.
Shane.
So
Before
another
Blake and I
10
go,
years.
before Blake and I go, Shane, who do you or where do you think Nathan lands if he were to come back to the CFL?
Shane wants to say Ottawa.
You just got Drew.
Shane, can you Shane, can you hear us? Okay.
No, not at all. It's not. I would be shocked. Like, I mean, every team would probably be interested in some capacity, but there's no way Ottawa goes after him with how True's been playing so far. Winnipeg makes a lot of sense with Caleros getting up in age. Strevler is not an everyday quarterback. But honestly, I think Toronto kind of is the spot for Nathan. I look at who's there right now, who's on the bench, who's not playing, and I don't know if Toronto can bring that back if Rourke's available to come up and be back in the CFL. I don't think you can pass up that opportunity to have that type of positive publicity and like marketing ability coming off this type of year that you're having.
Mm-hmm.
They have the MLSE has the money to spend on $1 million on a quarterback, right? Like if they spend $1 million, we know the CFL is a soft cap. You could go over, you'll pay a fine. Like if there's anyone that is willing to pay that fine, it's probably MLSE. I just don't see him anywhere besides Winnipeg or Toronto. I think Saskatchewan might be a spot, but I feel like they're pretty high on Shea right now, and if Shea can continue to develop without Harris, Montreal makes no sense. I agree that there's no way he's going back to BC with the way Vernon Adams has popped off and has turned into MOP favorite. And he's, like Coach said about paying his dues, he's kind of bounced around from team to team. But I think it's Winnipeg or Toronto. Saskatchewan might be a third, but I also don't see Hamilton being in. I don't see them wanting to spend that type of money because I don't see them wanting to overspend the cap to the degree they might have to if they're paying their quarterback $1 million.
Blake, go ahead, buddy.
Man, I don't know. I don't like that take from Coach Phil because it means we got to deal with Winnipeg for another 10 years as our competition out of the West.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, the more I think about it and the logic behind it, it does make sense. It's clear that Zach is done. I mean, I was on with our I was over in the chat with our buddies, the Three Down Bros the other day. It's kind of spoiling my three keys to the game for tomorrow. If you stop Brady Oliveira, you're probably gonna beat the Blue Bombers this year because Zach Collaros has thrown 3 touchdown passes all year. That's it. 3. That's normally one game for Vernon Adams. So, and I get it. I get what you're about to say, Shane. He's missing a lot of receivers. He's not getting the protection he deserves. I get all that. But Zach was never the reason they were winning and going to 4 straight Grey Cups. They had a great line. They had a great running back. They had a great defense. And all Zach had to do was not make mistakes.
Game manage.
Okay, but to be fair,
I mean, he did put up
we
like the
talked about
best
this in the
numbers while he
NFL
was
with
doing it. Though.
Brock Purdy. Like, to be fair, also this year it's a little different. Like, yes, his injuries have, like the receiver injuries haven't helped, but they're the second most fumbled team in the league behind Ottawa. Like, I don't know how many drives have stopped because Nick Dempsey can't hold on to the ball. So there's some leeway there. But at the same time, look at the amount of that the CFL has had that have probably outperformed Collaros on a year-to-year basis that haven't even sniffed a Grey Cup. Right? Look at that Winnipeg offense with Nichols, and then look at that Winnipeg offense with Collaros in 2019. It's the same argument that people make with Purdy being a game manager. You put someone else in there, there's no guaranteed that you're going to have the same success, right? So Collaros has definitely been a factor. Has he been the factor? No. They've had an excellent running game, going from Harris to Oliveira having the high end receivers. But I think there's a lot more than just Caleros at fault for this season for Winnipeg. But there's also been more than Caleros for when they go into 4 Grey Cups.
Okay, but at some point, when do we look at Zach for what he is right now rather than what he did 2019, 2021, 2022, and 2023? At some point, do we look at him and say, you are what you are right now? What are we? It's not about, oh, he was great because he had a great offensive line, one of the best offensive lines we've seen in the league in a long time. He's had chemistry. He's gone through a lot of receivers. Hell, he had Darvin Adams one year, and Darvin Adams was a beast. He's had Kenny Lawler. He's had Dalton Schoen. He's had so many different pieces. Yes, I equate Zach Collaros to the argument that we make here in the States for Joe Montana. You take away a Jerry Rice, you take away a John Taylor, you take away certain pieces. Who is Joe Montana without the pieces? He's still a hell of a quarterback, but the pieces made him otherworldly. When TSN
but take him away from the team, and are the team still that great?
But also, Lawler left Winnipeg and was garbage in Edmonton, right? And like, look at Eugene.
That's
Eugene
Edmonton.
Was great in Winnipeg, or was great in Montreal. Hasn't put up the same numbers in Edmonton. So to say that a quarterback doesn't impact a receiver is also false to a certain extent.
I can't agree with that, because with Zach, it's a tricky situation. If Zach didn't have a running game and he was just slinging rock everywhere and throwing for 5,000, 4,000 yards, okay, I can understand. You are the reason why the offense is doing this thing. Can you call him a game manager like Brock Purdy? Maybe, but he's working with the pieces that we always talk about in football. You work with what you got. He's made amazing strides with the pieces that he's got, but is the game catching up to him? Yes. Does Buck Pierce maybe need to change the offense around a little bit? Maybe. There's certain variables that come with it, with that offense. If you don't have the certain pieces out there, he's not going to look good. But at the same time, he's the guy. He's the quarterback. You got him. We want results. You're in a results-driven business. He ain't getting the results. Strevler can't throw the ball without it being play action. He can run the ball, but what can Strevler really do? Are you going to build the franchise around Strevler? No. Go get Nathan Rourke. Let that boy cook. I'm just tired of the excuses. I'm just tired of the excuses for Zach Collaros.
I mean, I get it. Like, obviously, the last 4 years doesn't outweigh what he's done today. Like, what he's doing this year is more evidence of what he is now versus what he was over the last 4 years. But you can't discredit what he did over the 4 years without talking about what he is today, right? You can't say that it's like the receivers. Darwin Evans came to Ottawa and he was nothing because the quarterback play wasn't good enough to get him the ball. Right? Okay. There's multiple players who've left Winnipeg on the offensive side and haven't hit that same level of offense that they were producing in Winnipeg. I think, Laplease had a lot to do with it, and Buck Pierce has done a lot to do with it by able to utilize the weapons effectively. Mm-hmm. But you take Collaros out and put in another quarterback. Again, no guaranteed results that they go to 4 straight, Grey Cups. And you take out some of those offensive weapons, you take out Harris and Brady Oliveira and some of the receivers. Sure, there may also be a disconnect there. It's not a plug-and-play offense. And people are turning it into, oh, you could have taken Collaros out and put in Trevor Harris or Cody Fajardo or anyone else, put them in that offense and they would have the same results, which I just don't think is true. Right? Just like how BC right now, you can't just plug in a quarterback in BC and expect him to have the same results that Vernon Adams is having.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you there. It's not as simple as that. That's why, like I said with Vernon, don't you go get Nathan Rourke right now. They've made this offense amazing for Vernon. Nathan's a different quarterback. Nathan's more of a dink and dunk and then get yak in the offense. Nathan's not going to take the top off of the defense with his arm. He doesn't have that arm strength to go do that. What I'm saying is, and it's more frustrating for me to say this because I like Zach Collaros. But again, we got to stop we can talk about the last 4 years. They played the same team twice in the Grey Cup. Same team twice. and won. But it's a matchup nightmare that they got against Montreal. It was a matchup nightmare that they had against Toronto, and Zach didn't show up. That was starting to show me like, okay, he's kind of regressing a little bit. We got to
But
update the
but have
resume.
have
Go ahead.
but shouldn't shouldn't a situation like Bo Levi Mitchell kind of be like an example of like where Bo was like, 2019 Bo kind of took a few years where he wasn't the same, right? Obviously, there's no. I agree. The excuses for Zach Collaros should kind of not be the reason why people are defending him this year. But for me, he's a whatever you want to say, whether he's played bad weapons, whatever, he's still a great quarterback for what he's done, and he still can prove that he's he can hopefully, I guess, if you're a Bombers fan, turn back the clock at some point, whether that's, next year, whether that's, down the stretch here after Labor Day, something like that, right? It is still week 9, right? As much as I don't think I think the Bombers are kind of dead here and going to be stuck in that third, fourth, muddy middle where you're not really getting anywhere. You're kind of not really gaining ground on the top teams. You're not really falling below. So you're kind of, it's a tough situation. I still think Zach's a great quarterback who could maybe next year still be good enough to get the Bombers in a playoff situation. Now, where you say Nathan Rourke comes into, maybe the Bombers, it's a business, right? Which we talked about with Willie J last week about, maybe they make a decision to, move away from Zach because of what he's, looked like this year. But, Bo should be a great example. Even me, I kind of started writing him off after the last few years. Even last year in Hamilton, I thought, he's cooked. This year coming into the year for the first few weeks, I didn't believe in him whatsoever. And he's like, to call a spade, he's looked pretty good. He's been top 4 quarterback in the CFL, I think, through 9 weeks. Is very fair to say. So I think to kind of write Zach Collaros so off so quick when we've seen him be great. I believe like he threw for 4,700 passing yards or something, or 4,500 passing yards last season. 30 touchdowns or something like that. So it's like it's still there. Is he the same Zach Collaros? Maybe not. Maybe this is father time kind of father time's undefeated. So maybe this is them knocking on the door, kind of being like, your time's up. That being said, I still think there's a little bit of game left in Zach Collaros because of the quarterback he was, because of he wasn't the guy that held onto the ball for so long. Now does that kind of you're seeing that with not as of good an O line, he's not able to hold the ball and stuff like that. But I still think he was able to get the ball out of his hands quick and be effective that way. I don't think he's doing it as good as he has in the past this year, but I still think there's a little bit of game left in Zach Collaros. So that's why personally I'm not writing him off. That's why maybe it's coming off as an excuse. When it's not, it's not me kind of wanting an excuse, but it's me kind of, let's see what happens here down the stretch. They're not out of it by any means with Calgary in third place. With what Calgary has,
3 and 5,
Calgary's
3 and 5.
3 and 4. Winnipeg's right there. I don't think like I said, they're in the muddy middle. I don't think Zach's gonna turn back the clock enough for them to catch Saskatchewan or BC. But they're one win away from taking over third place, and then they start to get confidence from there and build from there. So that's why personally I haven't read off Zach Collaros. But is there anything else, Coach, before we move on? That's Nathan Rourke for us. 20 minutes right there. We'll eat up quick.
Nah, I ain't really got nothing to really add to that other than I guess I can't really write him off. I'd say it's more of we hold him to such a high expectation because of what he's done. Like Shane said, you can't write off the 4. For me, if I'm looking at Zach Collaros, I'm saying, okay, I won't look necessarily at Zach. I'm gonna look at Buck Pearson. I'm gonna look at Michael O'Shea and say, okay, it's a Peyton Manning situation. You hide his deficiencies, and you got to have a solid run game. You got to build better run blocking for Brady. You got to mix in certain things. Don't try and always do what your bread and butter can change. So that's just on the coaches to hide the deficiencies and utilize the miniature strengths that he has right now and go get some wins.
Yeah,
All right,
but
two more news and notes, boys, before we get into our picks. What's up, Blake?
No, I was just going to say, I think that's part of the problem with Zach Collaros right now is that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are kind of refusing to say that they're out of it. But if you look at it at the same coin, neither are the Edmonton Elks. Like, yeah, I get they're 0-7, but they have that Labor Day and the rematch with Calgary coming up. I'm sure they play Winnipeg once or twice more. And if Tre Ford is the starter for the rest of the year, the Elks are in contention for that playoff spot as well.
Yes.
Yeah, let's get into it. I wanted to hear Coach's opinion. Tre Ford named the starter in Edmonton. Coach, I'll let you go. Actually, no, you got to go first last time. Shane, what are your thoughts? Tre Ford finally getting the keys to the offense.
It's about time. Like I
It's
know
about damn
McLeod Bethel
time.
Thompson he wasn't the issue the first 6 weeks, right? Statistically, he was producing. The offense was producing up until that back to back against Ottawa, where having two games in 5 days, you're gonna have that second game is always going to be a little bit messier than the first. But I don't know why they waited until like the last 10 minutes of the game to put Ford in. I think that's a rookie coaching mistake to wait that long to put him in. Especially when you look at like Toronto that replaced Cameron Dukes in like the first like 10 minutes of the game with Nick Arbuckle. So
Alexander.
Yeah. Or Montreal replacing Caleb Evans at the start of the second half with Alexander. Like I don't get it. But to be fair, like here's the thing with Tre Ford is that if they don't win or don't put up a better effort against Saskatchewan, people are just going to be looking at him just as much as they were looking at McLeod Bethel Thompson. That being said, should Tre Ford have a longer leash? 100%. But I think you have to ride the wave with him for the rest of the year. There's no way you can go back unless he's injured. There's no way you go back to McLeod Bethel Thompson for the rest of the year. If you lose out and Tre Ford is performing, people are going to be happy at the end of the day. Like at the end of the day, it's going to be okay. You have Ford starting the rest of the season. He's winning. He's putting like the offense is putting up points. The defense we know is young. I think it's by age and by experience. I think it's the second youngest secondary in the league right now, and I think it only seconds to Ottawa because of the amount of injuries they have in their secondary. So you start forward. If you win like 3-4 games, you're great. If you win 5 or 6, you are loving it. But if you go 1 or 2 and he's putting up points and the defense is struggling, at the end of the day, Edmonton fans are going to be happy. Edmonton faithful and like the Edmonton organization should be okay. This is our quarterback for the future. Let's get him signed up for next year and probably 2026. We'll say goodbye to McLeod Bethel Thompson. Thank you for your service. We won't need you next year. Again, I understand the reason they signed it. You can't go back. You couldn't go into another season with having their quarterback room was, Corndog and him and BC's backup. I can't remember his name right now, but you can't have that. You can't have that quarterback room. So you need to add an event. But I will say, I think you go forward the rest of the way, and no matter what the outcome is, it's a win at the end of the year.
Coach.
Yeah, but Shane, Coach, before you go
ahead, Blake.
Shane, my rebuttal to that is that's exactly what happened last year with Tre Ford. They waited even longer. They waited until week 10, and then in the last 9 weeks, they went 4-5, and everyone was so excited going into the offseason. We have the quarterback of the future, and he should have been the quarterback of the future, and then they still went out, and they still signed McLeod Bethel Thompson.
Yeah, because it's Chris
There's a
Jones.
difference. He's a free agent, though, this year.
It's also Chris Jones. And Chris Jones, you knew it was win or go home for Chris Jones. Like, let's be real. If Edmonton wins like 4 of these games and they're 4-3, Chris Jones is still on the roster. Like, he's still coaching this team.
Oh, 100%.
So, like, I can understand Chris Jones being desperate and be like, hey, I need to go out and get a veteran quarterback who, if Ford isn't ready or falters in any way, that I can put in. And I know I'll win because he's done it before as a starting quarterback. I can understand that perspective. But the fact, my only issue with it was that they gave the starting job to Bethel Thompson at camp, like before camp even started. Like, it was his when he got signed, and I think that hurts him more. But I also don't blame him for being a little bit desperate because it was win or go home for him, and he hasn't won, and he went home. But I agree that Ford should be the future, and like, there's no way you can, if you're Geroy Simon, there is absolutely no way you can justify keeping McLeod Bethel Thompson over Tre Ford heading into the offseason. There's no way.
Now the floor is yours.
It feels good to be black today. It feels so good. No, I hear what you're saying, Shane. I hear what you're saying, Blake. with Trey, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. I really don't. I know the reason. I know one reason is because you make that investment. You want to prove that investment is going to be a payoff for you. They gave McLeod, Bethel Thompson all that money, so you want to see it out there. Ownership is going to want to see that. But when you've got Tre Ford, you see what he did. 3 touchdowns in what, the fourth quarter alone? Imagine what he could have did if they would have put him in the second half. But those shoulda, woulda, couldas, I hate those because now we don't know. Now I gotta go to Regina this weekend and I gotta bite my tongue because I want to see my dog do good, but damn, I want to see my team win. So it's gonna be tough. But this is proving ground. And Tre had a great game against us last year. Great game. You just gotta give him a chance, let him do his thing. It is the final year of his contract. He's going to have to make a decision. Do I want to stay? Because they got a good team around him. They have a good team. Ownership needs to just get out the way. Let G-Roy just let Janoris do his thing. Let Tre do his thing, and you're good to go. Plain and simple. Don't put your hands all over this. Let the staff do their thing and let Tre cook. Not against us this weekend, though. That's all.
It comes back to Chris Jones. It comes back to Chris Jones, honestly, for me.
Yeah.
Like, personally, just because I understand, like, you're kind of feeder to the fire. You have to, basically win to save your job coming into this year. You didn't with McLeod Bethel Thompson. I just don't understand. We've seen how electrifying Tre Ford was with his scramble there. He escaped to the left, threw the ball downfield, made a play right away. We saw that last year. I believe the Gavin Cobb's first touchdown where he kind of evaded some defenders, rolled to the left, launched into the end zone. Yes, there's going to be some growing pains, but he already got you guys some wins where if you start him to begin the year, they were in close enough games where maybe he's able to make that 1 or 2 plays that you needed to get over the hump, where he gets you those 3 or 4 wins to save your job. And instead you went with the safe option where you could have spent the $500K on offensive weapons around him. You have a running back with no offensive line to block for him, so you refuse to give him the ball after he looked great last year. I believe he's a 1,000-yard rusher. Kevin Brown has
11.
not been effective this year. Not been effective this year because they can't run the ball because their offensive line is fucking booty cheeks. Their receivers are great. They have, like Coach said, their weapons are great. They're built around them. They could have had more. They could have added somebody else for $200K. They could have added another weapon or another offensive lineman for $200K and still had money to go spend on depth. And they refused to do that. Even more, they could have fucking upgraded the defense that's been so young. They could have got more guys that could have came in there and could have contributed. And instead, no. I fucking stood on this podcast last year and fucking banged on the table for Tre Ford to be a starting quarterback because of what it means to Canadian athletes, for one, and quarterbacks, number 2. He should have been developed. You took him in the first round. You learn by fucking being in the bullet. You learn by trial and error, not sitting on the bench because, one, speaking from a little of experience, not to the the level of professional quarterback, but once you get into regular season as a backup, you're lucky to see any first team reps during team periods. It is all starters. You do not see any team reps. Yes, you get to take individual. You get to have your 2 or 3 reps with the twos. It is not the same. You do not get the same looks. You do not learn as much as you do on the fly, and they refuse to do that. Now, because of the dumpster fire they are, I hope he goes and absolutely shows out this year and then does that to them on the way out this year in the offseason and says, I'm gone because my talents are way too good for you guys and you don't deserve them. So that's personally.
So okay, I just want to say, like, to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, because like I've never been a big McLeod Bethel Thompson fan. You can go way back into like 2020 when 13th Man started. I have never been a big fan, but at the same time, you have to give credit where credit's due. There's a lot of games early in the year where Bethel Thompson was giving them a position and putting them in spots to win, right? At some point in another, we have to actually look at games and not just look at the end of the scoreboard, right? The win-loss columns now should never be put on the quarterback, right? There have been multiple games. Like, think about it. The first game against Ottawa, if Beattie doesn't kick it out, right, Ottawa doesn't get started at the 50. there are multiple situations where the defense, special teams, there was other contributing factors that I don't think Ford could have done. But I do agree that spending that $500K on more experienced secondary and maybe some more experienced linebackers would have been a more beneficial route to go than the $500K on McLeod Bethel-Thompson.
Yeah, but again, Shane, that falls on Chris Jones because you just said Boris Beatty, the game that I happened to be at, the first game against Ottawa, he basically lost them the game. The rematch against Ottawa, he basically lost them the game. They went out and they signed Boris Beatty when they had a perfectly capable kicker in Dean Faithful, who I will remind you guys walked off the Calgary Stampeders in the Labor Day Classic last year, and they cut him loose. He's sitting on their practice roster, and I believe Beatty's missed kicks at least twice in the Elks' last 3 games.
I think that's what Shane's saying though. But for me, Shane, for me, Shane though, I agree 100%. MBT is not the reason to win, and I agree. Winning is not a quarterback stat, but where it's just a different story, man. He's a game changer. Those 2-and-outs, those punting possessions in the second quarter. I agree that it's not McLeod Bethel-Thompson, but if Tre Ford's in the game, how do you say that he doesn't break off an electrifying play on a second down that's not there when McLeod Bethel-Thompson's in the game? He cannot
dealing with what ifs, right? Because then you're taking away defensive possessions that might not have happened, right? If you look at what he could have done, means you have to take away of what the defense could have done differently too. And I don't think that's fair to Ford, right? That's unrealistic expectations on Ford to say that if he starts at week 1, week 8, week 4, that those games would have been different because he's maybe on the field for a drive longer. When realistically, the defense gave up a 3-play, 75-yard touchdown drive, right? But I also don't think, I think everyone can agree that Chris Jones is at fault for the situation that they're in. He drafted Tre Ford. Like, he didn't inherit Tre Ford. He drafted Tre Ford in the first round. And then he strung him along through the first 2 years of his CFL season, went out, spent $500K unnecessarily on a quarterback, and is now no longer in the CFL. I think we can all agree that Chris Jones is the center of all the problems in Edmonton right now. But I also don't think it's fair to sit here and crap on McLeod Bethel-Thompson when heading into week 7, he was the 3rd best statistical quarterback in the CFL behind Bo Levi and Vernon Adams.
No crapping on him. I don't want to crap on him. It's just let's say it's 2nd and 10. McLeod Bethel-Thompson gets sacked. Tre Ford has the ability to escape that sack. We saw it on Sunday. So if he's in the game, those are I know we're playing with ifs, ands, or buts, but those are reasonably that can reasonably happen.
Okay.
All it takes is 1 or 2 different plays.
Okay. I've heard everybody. Let me just dead it with this. Did he win or did he lose? I don't want to hear nothing about statistics and going into this, Did it result in wins or losses?
Who are we talking for? McLeod Bethel-Thompson or Tre Ford?
Yeah, McLeod Bethel-Thompson.
He lost every single game.
No. Yes or no? Did he win or did he lose?
He lost.
Okay. I keep trying, and people don't want to hear this, but you can say all the statistics, the analytics. You have to put some responsibility on McLeod Bethel-Thompson. There were games where he got in second down situations, and you knew he was looking for Hergy Mayala up the seam. He was looking for mainly Curly Gittens, because Curly's the only quarterback that McLeod Bethel-Thompson is the only quarterback that Curly Gittens has ever had. He was force feeding to Curly many times. Am I right or wrong? Yes or no?
You're right.
I agree.
All right. So you have to you can say all this stuff about Chris Jones. I'm going to get to that in a second. But I'm saying McLeod has some responsibility. He had inadvertent interceptions that he threw. He did get them off. He did get them out in 2 second down situations, which then they had to punt or they had to make field goals. So you have to look at the entire series, not just Boris Beatty. Yes. Could McLeod gotten them in better situations on the field where he could have made the field goal? Yes, but he didn't. The result was they ain't won a game. The only man that's won them games in the last couple years is Tre fucking Ford. Now, as far as Chris Jones goes, these coaches have got to realize the style that Tre Ford plays is the new style. And I don't think they like that. They want a Bo. They want a guy like Bo. They want a standing quarterback that's going to stay in the pocket and take licks and get the ball out. That's what they want. No, Tre is the Lamar Jackson of the CFL. You may not like Lamar, but look at him. Look at Josh Allen. Look at Patrick Mahomes. Look at all these guys where they move the pocket with them.
Yes, but I think that's a different comparison just a little bit, because Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, you can put in that category of top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't think you can put Lamar in that because he hasn't won a game in the Super Bowl, in the playoffs.
He went to the AFC Championship last year. Where was Josh Allen?
Not there.
All right, then. No, don't. See.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing with Tre Ford. This is my one issue, is that we're getting all hyped that Tre Ford is the next best thing since sliced bread. Last year, in 10 games started, he threw for 622 yards total in 10 starts. We're talking about Zach Collaros not performing so far this season at 2-7 or 2-6 with Winnipeg. Tre Ford averaged 62.2 yards passing in 10 starts last year.
But
So
that's
why he needs to play.
Hold on.
You're talking about a quarterback when you're average. We're going to talk about Arbuckle beating Winnipeg, throwing 87 yards like that's going to be normal. You're going to tell me that a starting quarterback should be throwing for under 100 yards?
But they won
to sit
the
here
game.
and say,
That's all that matters.
But it doesn't, though, because then you're diminishing what other players on the team have done. So to sit here and say that 622 yards in 10 games, 622 yards in 10 games is acceptable? Are we seriously going to sit here and say that 622 total yards? He has a career up until this season. Heading into this season, he had 11 interceptions and 14 touchdowns. Are we really going to sit here and say that is some miraculous thing that he should be happy about? No. So did Ford need to earn it? Sure. Did spending the money on McLeod Bethel Thompson make sense? No. But we need to stop acting like Tre Ford is going to magically come in here and put up 300-yard games consistently and be this magical passer when he hasn't shown it.
But it's a better option than what they have.
So here's the thing. Can he win a game when he's forced to throw a ball? And he has not shown that.
Shane, that's why he needs to play, though, because you can get better on the bench. I agree. No, I agree with you 100%. Those are not good numbers.
He's going to magically make a play.
But we've seen the flashes, though. You've seen.
We also see more negatives on an average basis. If you watch any of his 10 starts, he makes a lot of his plays with his feet. It's just like Dustin Crum. You're not going to sit here and tell me Dustin Crum deserves to start over Drew Brown based off his record last year. He was the only quarterback to get Ottawa wins over the last 3 years.
Okay, but
because he was more of a runner, and when he was forced to throw the ball to win games, he struggled with it. So before we jump on the Tre Ford bandwagon as like he's the next coming of Ricky Ray, he's an improvement over McLeod Bethel Thompson because of his ability to run the ball. But we still have no ability to show what he is as a passer. He threw for 3 touchdowns. He only threw for 100 and some yards last week. So let's see what he can do against Saskatchewan and see how long of a leash he has. But I also think people, myself included, we all need to temper expectations because I don't think this guy's going to go out here week after week and throw for 250 plus yards. He's more likely to run for 200 yards.
But Shane, that's what makes it frustrating. He didn't get the opportunity to play. So yes, I
He
agree.
had
It
10
was
games
bad.
last year and he put up 622 yards.
Yes, he could have played the 8 to start. He could have played the 8 to start this year.
But if Corn Dog had 3 wins and 13 starts,
I like that, Corn Dog.
right? If he had 3 wins in 13 starts and he put up 622 passing yards, would we be talking the same way as him, even though he's shown flashes of running the ball and being able to move out of the pocket and create plays?
Cornelius hasn't shown any flashes. Cornelius has shown zero fucking potential.
Cornelius showed a lot of flashes. He's shown the ability to move the ball downfield. He showed the ability to run. He just never did it because he wasn't very good at it. He wasn't consistently good.
Can I throw my titty in here real quick?
But to sit here and say that Tre Ford is going to come out here and be this, and again, I said it earlier. You can go back and watch. He's an improvement. Yes. 100%. He will help the offense. But the question will come down.
You did say nobody is sitting here saying that Tre Ford is going to magically change everything. Coach Phil is saying on hard copy, he's an improvement.
Yes.
He has to go do it. But it's also there are other variables too that made it impossible for him to show what he can do. I agree with Cole. Cole is right. He hasn't been given the same opportunity. Now, on to what you said about comparing him and Zach Collaros. 2 totally different situations. You can't compare the two.
But you have to compare what they've been doing.
No.
You're talking about Collaros.
Situations are different. If I'm going into Winnipeg's locker room and I know I've got a Grey Cup winning quarterback, but the expectation with him has been Grey Cup or bust. I know I'm going to hold him to the numbers and the stats that he has done. If I'm not, let's say Mike O'Shea got fired and I'm walking in a situation, I know I got a quarterback that's been to 4 straight Grey Cups. I know what I'm going to get out of him and he lays a shit egg out there. Yeah, I'm going to be pissed. But with Tre Ford.
Do you think Tre Ford at Winnipeg?
We could. But with Tre Ford, the expectation is not the same. He's coming in again in the middle of the season trying to make something happen.
So considering the weapons that are in both healthy, the healthy weapons that are in both locker rooms right now, does Zach Collaros make a bigger impact in Edmonton than Tre Ford does in Winnipeg? Like, do you think Collaros, like Edmonton is like a 5-2 or 4-3 team, and with Collaros at quarterback going to Eugene Lewis, Giddens, Mayala, like all those guys, getting everyone involved. Do you think Edmonton's better off having Collaros at center than Winnipeg would be with Ford, or do you think that Ford takes Winnipeg to a better record than they're currently at?
I'm taking Tre in that situation over Zach in Edmonton.
But I'm not asking about in Edmonton. I'm talking about if you were to switch the situations. If you were to put Collaros,
that's what I'm saying. If Tre was in Winnipeg, they're balling.
With the lack of weapons that Winnipeg currently has healthy. I'm not talking about healthy Winnipeg.
I know.
Question. But like no Schoen, no Lawler, Dembski hasn't been great. Yeah. Versus a Eugene Lewis, a Curly Giddens, a Kevin Brown, a Leak. Like you're gonna take Tre in Winnipeg over like Collaros in Edmonton, given their current weapons.
Yeah,
Zach doesn't look good.
But here's the thing: the
reason why situations,
two totally different offenses with 2 totally different situations, and it all comes down to at least Winnipeg's offensive line looks semi-solid. Can we agree that Edmonton's line is not looking best?
But neither has Edmonton. It's not like Edmonton is blowing opponents away either.
But if I got a young quarterback behind vets, I'm trusting them vets to take care of a young quarterback like that. I'm trusting it. And the offense does work in Tre's favor rather than in Edmonton where nobody can tell you what their offense is. But if you watch it's seams, comebacks, and maybe we'll throw Gino a jump ball. That's it. And we can't run the ball, so Zach's going to have to throw the ball 40 damn times to make up for the inefficiencies of not being able to run the ball.
But if you think Zach has a better arm than Ford, which right now he's shown he does, with the weapons that he has in Edmonton with the UG, do you not think it would be easier to run the ball knowing that you have a quarterback that can take advantage of, the
MBT was doing that. Right? MBT was, you said MBT was third in passing this year already.
But
Okay,
you're
and they
saying
did
that,
win games.
yeah, because their
So
defense
I
wasn't. But you're saying that the situation matters, right? Situation
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah,
So you're saying
yes,
that
but
Tre Ford in Winnipeg would be a better situation than Caleros in Edmonton based off of the play calling? Like, are you
I
thinking that
agree.
Buck Pierce is a better offensive coordinator than Jackson?
I agree with Coach. I just wouldn't. I know because you asking the question, like we're supposed to answer, but I just wouldn't. Like if I'm Edmonton, I just wouldn't. I want to see what I have with this guy. I would not want to take Zach Collaros. I know it's for the sake of the question, but like I would
the
just
ceiling.
want to see what I have. I drafted
Oh
him
yeah,
in
I
the
get
first
that.
round.
I get
Why
that.
not? Why not? You don't learn by practicing. So anybody that says that is just wrong.
No,
Number
I
one.
totally get that. But like at the
And to
same
like
time,
I agree. I agree. 10 games sample size, the numbers aren't great,
but
but the
like
flashes are there. The
sure,
potential
the flashes have been there.
the potential to blossom into a flower is there more than anybody else. The Taylor Cornelius, as you mentioned, the fucking whoever else was in Ottawa.
Yeah, but you
The
never.
but
I'm not talking about the potential.
the
I'm just
and
talking about the here and now. If you were to take both of those
he has
guys,
potential here now though.
no, but given their situations, you're telling me that Tre Ford would have better success in Winnipeg the rest of the way, given their current roster build, not healthy Winnipeg versus healthy Edmonton. You're saying that Tre Ford, if they were to be traded for each other right now, Tre Ford would have better success in Winnipeg than Zach Collaros would in Edmonton.
Yes.
I'm not going to answer the question because it's if, ands, or buts, but we will stop beating a dead horse.
Let's
I
move on.
believe
Let's move
Blake
on.
just left us, but I do have his picks, so we will jump into our picks right now. So we will be able to have Blake's picks, but the three boys will go through week 9. Blake does not get to get his flowers after last week going perfect on the week. Shane and I had a tough time going 1-3. But that being said, let's get into week 9's picks. We have a good one tomorrow. BC traveling to Winnipeg after the bye. No surprise here, boys. I'm going to pick BC. I think just with Winnipeg, I've been bullish on them the last little bit here while they've been struggling, waiting for them to win. They've proven me wrong here the last couple of weeks when I've backed them. So being a Lions fan, being a Lions supporter, no hesitation to pick the Lions here, especially coming off the bye. I would think they're going to be pretty ticked off after losing. So I'm going to take the Lions. I will go to Shane next. Who are you picking and why?
Oh, I mean, it's the Lions. I don't. If you look at, I don't want to say it's a must-win game right now for BC because it's not late. It's not post Labor Day, but they're tied with Saskatchewan at 5-2. Every in-division game for both those teams going forward is a must-win. Right? They're going to go head-to-head. That's going to be the deciding factor. I think you have to go. Like BC has to win this. I think BC is going to come in hot and heavy. My only issue with going with BC is after a bye, and Rick Campbell's record after a bye in Ottawa was never the greatest. But I think the issues in Winnipeg are too great for them to rebound against this solid of a team. Offensively, I think there's still some defensive questions that need to be answered, but offensively, I think they're going to look to rebound after a low performance based off their expectations.
I'm surprised you didn't say it's a must-win game for the 2 and the 6 team compared to the 5 and 2. But I don't hate,
because at this point, like, it's not like every game for here on out for Calgary is a must-win. But I think if you're looking to win the division, the divisions between Saskatchewan and BC, they're both playing Western opponents. Edmonton's in Saskatchewan. They're both playing Western opponents. These in-division games matter so much more than the cross-division games for the rest of the way.
Yeah. I just don't think it's must-win for the Lions. They dropped 1 to Saskatchewan with Shea Patterson still. I thought they were going to win last week. They gave up to they collapsed to Davis Alexander. No offense, I'm sure Coach doesn't want to talk about that. But Coach, who are you picking and why?
Being a secret BC Lions fan, I am going to go.
Secret about it.
Shut up. No, I'm going to go with BC on this one. They're coming off the bye. They got Hatch's back. TJ's back. I am concerned about if Zach has the ability to stretch the play a little longer, is the secondary going to give up the big play? That new boy that they got is nasty. I like. Well, I keep forgetting his name. For Winnipeg, the
Terrell
receiver.
Ford? Oh,
No,
the
no,
receiver, Ontario Wilson.
Ontario. Well, I keep want to call him Patrice Wilson. Ontario Wilson. That boy nasty. If they within the red zone stretch the field, it's a wrap. But I'm going to BC for the win. Next.
Here's the thing. Keon Hatcher makes his return against Winnipeg, where he hurt himself last year. Lucky Whitehead makes his 2024 debut back in Winnipeg against BC. So, like, I'm kind of down. I'm interested purely for the storylines around those two to see what happens, how much they're used. You know, if their reps limited, if they're going to have a snap count on them. I'm very interested to see how those two storylines and see how effective those two players will be this week.
I agree. I personally think Lucky's going to get a little, maybe a couple plays drawn up for him or a couple opportunities just because the old squad type thing. But I also am curious to, see if Hatch is, limited anyway. He's listed as a starter, obviously, but, I'm curious to see throughout the game if maybe Passant gets in there for a few snaps. But hopefully all things are go and Hatch is able to. TJ Lee wasn't on a snap count last week, which is good to see. So hopefully things are good for the both of them. They're able to stay healthy. It will be interesting that Hatch is kind of returning to the place that all happened to him. So Friday night's matchup is the Montreal Alouettes traveling to Hamilton. Coach, you're going to go obviously against Hamilton. I will as well, and I believe it'll be a clean sweep. Actually, I forgot. Actually, Blake is picking BC, but is it going to be a clean sweep once again? We all go in Montreal here?
No.
No?
No. I can't.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
I can't believe I'm about to do this. I think if they're aggressive with their defense inside the box, if they're aggressive, who's starting? Is it going to be Davis Alexander?
I don't think it's been named yet.
If it's Davis Alexander, Hamilton will win. But if it's Caleb Evans, Hamilton's going to win. Oh, I'm going with Hamilton.
I appreciate the pain coming behind that answer, Coach. But Shane, obviously you're a little back on that as well. So you're going to take Hamilton as well?
Yeah, I mean, Hamilton's running a high. They've won the last two games. Bo Levi's looking like Bo Levi of old. They've gotten Tim White involved. They've gotten James Butler involved. That defense has seemed to kind of settle down a little bit since early in the year. I am very concerned about Cody coming off the 6-game injured list like 5 weeks early. If he starts,
I don't think they're starting him though.
I'm not sure. Like, they haven't. I don't think they've released their depth chart yet. So I'm saying if they start him, I'm gonna have some serious concerns regarding the health of his hamstring and how effective he'll be, especially moving in the pocket. That's kind of his bread and butter right now, is being able to extend plays and find those open guys on broken down plays. For Alexander, he played great in the second half against Saskatchewan. Where they forgot how to play football for a little bit. But my thing is, like, you got to do it again. If he starts, let's see how you do as the starter, as teamers are prepping for you. You know, people were prepping for Evans. I don't think they were able to adjust quite as well as they might have hoped against Alexander. But I think Hamilton's just riding that high. They played really good football the last 2 weeks. With a win, they're right back into the thick of things in the East. Montreal hasn't looked great overall, even with Fajardo before his injury. I don't know. I feel like Hamilton just has the momentum, has the swagger back in Hamilton that I think kind of propelled them to the top of the East for so many years. But yeah, I think it's all Hamilton this week.
I like it. So Blake and I are going to go Montreal. Personally, I'm going Montreal. Hamilton's looked great the last couple of weeks. Won back-to-back games. I think Montreal's a better team. Yes, they don't have their starting quarterback, but I think with the team around them, they're able to stay in a lot of ball games. Their defense is one of the better defenses in the league. last week, obviously the hype of Davis Alexander is probably going to take over a lot of people's minds going into this game, especially with the two records. But I just think Montreal's team's better. They've proven it for a little bit longer. Hamilton's obviously playing confident right now. I agree with all the factors that you're saying about their offense looking good. Bo's looking great. James Butler, who I think, I said it going back to his BC days. I think he's the second best running back in the league behind Brady Oliveira. Now, obviously, people like the Kadeem Carries. You can kind of argue that, but the way JB is able to catch the ball and run the ball, I think, is a great thing for Hamilton. I just think this is a game that they lose. I think Hamilton's going to continue to trend upwards later in the season as we get closer to playoffs. So I think they're going to be a good team, but I'm going to go with Montreal. I think I feel a little bit safer with that. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a close one and Montreal maybe wins it with a field goal. But Blake and I will take Montreal. Coach and Shane will take Scamilton. I can't believe I'm going to say that with Coach in there. But to go to game number 3, we have the Edmonton Elks going to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I'm curious to see how the boys are going to pick here. Coach, it's your Riders. Who are you picking and why?
I'm picking Edmonton. I'm just fucking with
Holy
y'all.
so-
No, I'm just fucking with y'all. I ain't going that far. I ain't going that far now. No, I'm going with us. For us, I think it's more of a bounce back situation. I think we need to kind of reset ourselves. This is the game to do it. Now it's going to be, I believe it's going to be a 30-25. It's going to be a scoring game. We got to keep Trey from doing all that Worley Dervish stuff, that Russell Wilson stuff. We got to box him in, make him come to you. You don't go to him. You send certain pressures, keep him on his toes, and we'll be good to go. We're going to win this one. But Trey's going to have a good game, though. I ain't going to hold you. Let's not be naive.
Shane, who are you picking and why?
I'm taking the Rough Riders here. I got to take them at least once before next week, before they lose to Ottawa. But I think Saskatchewan's defense, that secondary, is too good. I agree with Coach where you're gonna have to contain him. So on defense, you're not gonna have to. You can't have your ends kind of over pursuing him. They're gonna have to keep their lanes, make sure they play discipline. They won't want to get too aggressive to try to bring him down, because if you get him scrambling, if you can keep him in front, get him to throw a couple of bad passes, you have the chance to take the ball away. The best way to win is keep him on the sidelines. I agree that Tre Ford should have a good game, but it's going to be a game where he's going to have to win the game by throwing the ball. I don't think he can win the game by rushing for 150 yards. He's going to have to be able to dissect that defense, take what that defense gives him. It'll be up to Jackson to give him a situation, put him in a situation where he can run the ball and put himself in a situation to throw the ball. But I don't know. I like that defense. I think they're going to bounce back after kind of a slap in the face against Montreal last week after that second half blowout. I think the Rough Riders take the win, and them and BC both kind of improve to their 6-2.
Yeah, I'm a little bummed Trey's first start's going to be against that defense. I think he's going to have a tough time. That being said, Blake and I, it'll be a clean sweep. Blake and I are taking the Riders as well. Excited to watch this one, though, on Saturday. I think it's going to be a fun one. Just the excitement Trey brings and the eyes that it'll bring with his, first start of this season, Riderville and all the diehards out there. But I think Saskatchewan wins this by maybe, unfortunately, probably double digits, maybe like 10 or 12, something like that. I'm crossing my fingers Trey's able to look good and hopefully lead his team into a little bit of hope down the stretch here. I think they fall to 0-8, but let's get into Sunday, the last matchup of the week. Toronto travels to Calgary. Shane, who you picking and why?
Both their quarterbacks are in very questionable situations. I would take neither team to win if I could. Give another tie. I think I have to go Toronto. I don't want to. I think Calgary should win, but Toronto keeps finding ways to win. I think, the Bailey release is kind of surprising. But I think it's going to be a special teams battle. I think you got Grant, you got Logan. Those guys are going to go off. I think it's whatever special teams can take advantage and flip the field. But man, I this is probably one of the worst Sunday games that I've seen in a while, based off of how the quarterbacks have played. Um, I'm curious on who they go with in Toronto. If Cameron Dukes gets another short start, or if they just give it to Arbuckle. Um, and then I don't know what they're going to do in Calgary if Jake Mayer has another 46-yard first half performance. Like I
Oh,
just this is such
Uh,
a it's going to be such a sloppy game. I think it's going to be a rough one to watch.
I agree with you, Shane. I'm bummed that this is on Sunday, the last game of the week, when you're able to enjoy my last day off. A long weekend too, and we get a dud of a game. Kind of feeling similar to Shane, where I don't know who to pick. I don't want to pick either, but I'm gonna go with Toronto. I seem like probably like a Stamps hater after they beat the Lions, but I just don't. I'm not a believer in them. Obviously, they beat BC. Um, I just going back to last year, I'm not a big Jake Mayer guy. I've said this for a while now. He refuses to push the ball downfield, refuses to push the ball downfield. And in the Canadian game, that's just unacceptable. And I don't hate his weapons. They're not a top four unit in the CFL, but they're not also garbage. He has a few playmakers out there that I think if he were to push the ball downfield a little bit more, I think things would work out a little bit better for them. They're 3-4. They're in third spot in the Western Division, so it's seems a little bit tough to say, but I'm just not a believer in Calgary, and I don't really have much faith in them to pick them this week. So Toronto, I feel the same, especially not knowing who's going to start, but I feel a little bit more confident in them. I've said it all year. I think just going to rely on the trenches. They're good up front. They're built on the offensive and defensive line. So I'll go with the Argos. Coach, who you picking and why?
Argos, but don't nobody really care about this game. It's sad to say. As much as I want to, big up my cousin Jake Mayer, I can't. I just can't. I try. I try, but 46, like Jake. I don't know. And Dozier on their defense pisses me off because he's always doing some shit he ain't supposed to be doing. This guy's thumb up his ass half the time. I'm like, oh my God, just get off the field. Get off the field. The Rasheed Bailey thing is surprising. That really surprised the hell out of me because why? But it is what it is. I don't know what I don't know. Kadeem gonna run the ball. They still got one of the best offensive lines in all the league, and I don't know. I'm gonna be bored.
It's gonna be a tough one to watch, boys. It's gonna be a tough one to watch.
Tried telling you last week.
Hey, I was
he
gonna say
just
something.
doesn't. He has the weapons. Like if you, it's not like Bangleton just got suddenly worse and his skill all got dried up. Like this isn't Space Jam and no one's walking around with a magic football sucking players' skills away.
Pause.
The difference between what Jake Mayer does and what Bo Levi did with Reggie Bangleton was that he was able to push the ball downfield. He's like 6'6". Why is this guy not? Why aren't you using him in a jump ball situation? Why aren't you guys using him in one-on-one more? Like I don't, and maybe it's play calling. Maybe that has to do with it. But his inability to use his receivers and their strength is just mind-boggling to me. Like I don't understand it.
I ain't gonna hold you. I ain't gonna hold you, bro, on some real shit. I was at a quinceanera on Saturday, and I was watching the game. I was watching Winnipeg and Toronto. Bro, I had some burrito tacos, and I fell asleep watching the game. All I remember, I swear to God, on everything I come to love, I'm sitting at the table. There's loud music playing, and I'm just holding my phone. And I'm about 8 tacos in, and bro, I fell asleep snoring. Like that was how boring the game was. And then I wake up, and it was Nick Dembski fumbling the ball, and I was like, "What did I miss?"
You didn't miss much.
I know. I watched it back like later on the night. I was like, "This shit was boring." Like I expected more, but Toronto, go with Toronto, and it'll be it. It'll be all right.
Yeah, I didn't fall asleep during the game, but I too was busy Saturday night. I was at the VI Raiders game. Came home, woke up Sunday morning. I'm like, man, I got a game to watch. We're right on. I threw it in. I probably paid attention for the first like maybe quarter or so, and then basically tuned out for the rest of it. Was on my phone. But tough one last Saturday. That will conclude our CFL picks this week. So I guess a little bit of news that we didn't really announce at the start of the show, which probably would have been nice, but. Coach Phil and Shane will be joining us on a regular basis from now on. So To bring me to my picks, do we start the records over again because Coach is only 1 week sample size? Shane is has missed a week in there, or do we base our records here off win percentage at the end of the year? Coach, just to give you a heads up before you answer, you were 1-3 last week, so you have the opportunity to flush that, start at 0-0, or we can start last week at 1-3. Coach,
I ain't quitting. We're gonna bounce
you ain't
back.
quit.
I ain't quitting.
Okay,
So
okay,
I think we
so
do it too. I think we do two
we do two.
because I think we keep the one that was between us three, and then we
Okay.
start with as of last week. I think that's the
We
only
start
fair way to do it because it's not fair to Blake to get scrubbed, but it's also not fair to Coach to start 7 weeks behind us. So
okay. So we do two then.
I think that's the most fair, like it's the most fair option way to do it because like it's not fair to Blake to restart when he's leading already, and
Right.
it's not fair to Coach Phil to be 7 weeks behind. So
Okay, so we're gonna do two then. That's what we'll do. We will keep Shane, Blake, and I's. We will have a little wager at Grey Cup. I believe it's loser buys first round.
I think so.
We will
Yeah.
maybe we'll do another wager for the four of us. So we will start from last week. That's what we're gonna do with the four of us.
Yeah. From last week, I think it's start from last week with the
Oh,
four of us, and then keep the
well,
keep the ones
how
going.
how ironic is it that Shane said that, Coach, after the three of us are 1-3? Yes, so
Hey,
me,
I'm just.
Coach, and
I don't think it's
no,
fair to Blake. He's not
I'm
here.
Shane. I'm totally just kidding. I'm totally
He's
just
not
kidding.
here to defend himself, so I'm just trying to be nice to him.
No,
If he was
I
here to
to,
defend himself, I'd say screw it. Just start from now. Start from week 9. We all start at 0. Screw him, but he's not here, so I'm trying to be
no,
nice.
I'm totally just kidding, buddy. I'm totally just kidding. But Shane will take the lead, Coach. The three of us, me, you, and Blake, were 1-3 last week. Not a great week from the three of us. Shane will hold first place for now at 4-0. But like you said, I guess we will keep track of the three of us. We will keep a wager, and then the four of us will do a wager as well. Like I said, the boys will be joining us weekly from now on, starting at about 6:10. We'll kind of do like an hour kind of thing where we go a little bit of news and notes till about 6:30 type thing, just talk about what's happening in the league. As you saw, we went probably about 15-20 minutes over time, and then we'll take the last little bit to do our little CFL picks and stuff like that. Next week, we won't maybe beat the dead horse as long and maybe get into a few other things.
I have
Cody
nothing to do with
Fajardo.
that.
I
I
think it's
Isn't
good
that
as
what
well, though. I think I enjoyed it personally, to be honest.
isn't that what ESPN does
But
all the time? They just beat the dead horse
you
every day
you
on
fucking
every other
right.
show.
You fucking well. We better
How
than that.
many how many triple doubles can LeBron get to break the record on like 7
okay, here
different talk shows?
we
It's
will
all the
we will end
same
the,
thing, just 7 different talk shows.
Well,
we
let's
will
be
we will end the segment with Coach and Shane here. I'm curious, Shane being an Ottawa fan, Coach being a CFL fan. I know Riders is where you kind of hold your allegiance to, but I think we've seen a really good season here so far through 9 weeks of a lot of good parity. Teams on each side. I'm curious, as quickly as possible, maybe in like 2 minutes or less or something with an answer. Right now, where we stand currently, do you think the West Division or the East Division is currently better? I'll go to Shane first.
That's a tough question. As a whole, I think it's the East.
As a whole, yeah.
Um, and that's not just based off records. I think if you watch them play, I think Hamilton is better than Winnipeg and Edmonton currently. The top two teams, though, I think are in the West. I think the teams to beat, as well as Montreal has played, I think the teams to beat are Saskatchewan and BC. But I think overall, I think the East is a better division. Will be a tighter division than the West. I would not be shocked if the West is locked up to BC and Saskatchewan by like week 14.
I agree, Coach. Who do you think's better, the East or the West Division? Right, that's right now, Coach.
right now. I say the more fun games have been in the West. As plain as day, more fun games. The East is it's a little more slower pace, but I like watching the East a little, especially when Ottawa playing. Ottawa plays, man. I'm having a little fun watching it.
I think just the point of my question is like for years now we've had the Western be so overpowered and it be talked about a lot. We're seeing a lot of good parity this year, and I think maybe for the first time in a while we could see maybe the East team crossing over to the West if maybe that third team isn't able to figure it out by the time playoff starts. But go ahead, Shane. Yeah,
To be fair, we also saw the same thing happen last year, and we saw how that turned out. So,
we
like,
did, we did.
there's a reason why no team has crossed over from the East, but also a reason why we haven't seen a team cross from the. And this is the part of the question is that like no Eastern team has crossed over into the West, but no Western team that's crossed over to the East has went on to the Grey Cup.
Mm.
Yeah.
Different styles of ball.
Exactly.
2 different styles.
But I just think it was a little good talking point because I think it's been fun, like Coach said, to watch the East this year and watch those teams battle it out and have good records and win a lot of games. So I believe they helped out the BC Lions last week on their bye. I believe they swept all 4 games. They went 4-0. Specifically, they're dropping the Saskatchewan Roughriders. But thanks to both you guys for joining us tonight, Coach. Before we get you out of here, let the people know where they can find you on socials.
Find me at Coach Phil Reacts here on YouTube. Find me Coach Phil 425 on Instagram and also on Twitter, X, whatever the hell Elon Musk is calling it. And we out here.
Awesome, Coach. We'll see you next Wednesday and enjoy the weekend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Take it easy, y'all.
All right, that was Coach Phil. Shane, before we get you out of here, buddy, let the people know where they can find your work on 13th Man and social media. Oh, Shane, you might be muted.
There we go. I'm
There we go.
on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Shane _ 13th Man. Obviously, 13th Man website, 13th Man Instagram, Twitter, and Instagram.
Facebook as well. We are live on Facebook tonight.
Yes, and we'll be carrying this live on Facebook. I know we've been working out the kinks on that. I'm kind of trying to figure out the best way to go about it, but we might have our esports Twitter back up and running and doing the esports stuff again in the next couple of weeks, trying to bring some talent in for that. But yeah, I mean, you have the CGFL stuff going on. The OFC is starting up soon in Ontario. We got about a week or so until that happens. And then obviously U Sports. And that's kind of what we're going to have a full fall of CGFL, U Sports and CFL football going on. And then probably some NFL and NCAA stuff along the way too.
Yeah, and you've been putting out the prop bets. I've been following along with those as well, and I think good for anybody that's in the betting community or whatever that wants to follow along as well. Shane putting out little articles, usually on game days or whatever, the morning of. Yeah. So stay tuned for those.
I missed Saturday because that would have been horrible.
But
I'll also
yeah,
be doing that for NFL Sunday. I'll be doing that for the Thursday, the Sunday, and the Monday night games as well for the NFL. Going to try to sneak in some NHL stuff in there as well.
Right on. So follow Shane on all those social medias. As we like to say here on the show, turn on notifications so you guys don't miss out on any of Shane's work over on 13th Man Sports or his personal social media as well. So Shane, thanks for joining us tonight, buddy. I had a lot of fun, and we'll see you next Wednesday night.
Yeah, thank you for having me. See you next Wednesday.
All right. Later, Shane. All righty, folks. That'll do it. Blake unfortunately had to hop off a little earlier than expected, but we got all his picks in. He took Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, and Hamilton. Nope, that was last week's. He took BC, Montreal, Saskatchewan, and Toronto this week. Blake still in first place of the overall standings. In the new standings, that will be Shane's spot for now. I say. To close out the show, we're going to do our BCFC picks quickly. And Blake, I believe, did actually throw his in the chat here. So we have Prince George Kodiak's traveling to the Langley Rams this Saturday. I'm going to go with the Langley Rams. Curious to watch this game. Excited to watch this game, actually, as well. PG, I thought, has looked good through the first 2 weeks, but I'm going to go with Langley coming off the bye. I expect a little bit more out of them. I think I'm going to take Langley in a close one. Blake as well has the Rams, so he, the Langley guy here on the show, is going to take the Langley Rams as well. I'm going to go with the VI Raiders over the Kamloops Broncos, the second game of the weekend. I think both teams have looked better than expected. Colton Melky, shout out to him, 19-year-old CGFL, I believe, second-year receiver for the Broncos. Spent some time with the BC Lions this training camp. Has been looking as dominant as ever. Has been looking really good for the few clips I've seen on film and stuff like that. Has been making an impact like you would expect. So I'm interested to see how the Raiders handle that. I know I talked to Coach Sean Rapsky a little bit yesterday at practice about his plan. I was able to take in practice, so see a little bit of what they had in store. So I'm curious to see if they're able to execute there. I'm going to take the Raiders because they look good. Had a tough game against Oki last week, and if ands or buts, I don't like to use them, but people like to maybe call me a little bit of homer. The Raiders, I think, should be 2-0. For the Canadian football fans that are tuning in that maybe aren't big CHFL fans or BCFC fans that know Canadian football game. Late in the game, week one, the Raiders tried a onside punt. Watching the film back, had all three onside players that wanted to recover the ball behind the punter, so they were onside. One of them ends up recovering a punt. The referee ends up, I believe, calling them for a flag for illegal touching, not seeing that he was behind the punter. So they end up not getting that possession. Would have had the ball inside the PG 20-yard line or so, and had an opportunity to win that game as well. And then last week in versus Oki, they lost by 7 points to the really one of the powerhouses in the BCFC. I think them, Valley, and kind of West Shore or Langley this year are going to be the top four. Oki, I think, will be up there as well. So to be toe to toe with them is a good sign. I think they'll edge out Kamloops this week. The last game is Oki and Valley, which I'm really excited. I believe this is a Saturday Night Lights game, 7:30 kickoff. I think it's in Chilliwack. It is in Chilliwack. So this will be a good one. I'm going to go with the Okanagan Sun here. This is going to be a tough game. I could see this going either way. I think this is going to be a test of who's going to be the best team in the BCFC this year. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to put my money on the Okanagan Sun. I think they're a little bit more well-rounded than the Valley Huskers, but the Valley Huskers have proved me wrong. I think they're going to be a tough team this year. They're going to be one of the two top teams. So I'm excited to watch this one. 7:30 kick. Not too sure if I'm going to be able to watch too much of it just because it's the Raiders game's at 5:30. But I will be hopefully trying to watch a rerun if that's possible the next morning or so. So looking forward to that one. That will end. Blake's going to go actually against me, I believe. Actually, he's going to take the Huskers. So that will end our BCFC picks and basically take us to the conclusion of our CFF weekly show number 9, folks. Already, I can't believe how fast time is flying, like Blake and I mentioned before the show. But we're having fun every week. We're doing it. Appreciate everybody that's tuning in the chat. Brian, as always. I know Jay's working tonight, but I know Wizard Takes was here throughout the show. Everybody that contributes here or follows along, we really appreciate you guys supporting us along the way. I know we were live on Instagram as well tonight. So if you guys are tuning in on there, we appreciate you guys so much. Not able to see any of your guys' comments here on the StreamYard platform, but if you're able to either come over on YouTube, you can have your comments brought up on the StreamYard, or just continue to follow along on Instagram watching. So that'll do it for me here tonight. A few reminders before we go. As always, of course, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit the notification button so you guys can be notified when we go live or post any content throughout the week. Lastly, I will be live tomorrow night following the BC Lions game versus the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. 5:30 kick. I would imagine the game ends around 8:30. So expect a post-game show around 9 o'clock tomorrow night, talking all things BC Lions versus the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in week number 9. We'll go for about an hour or so, and then you guys will see me next Wednesday night for the Canadian Football Fanatics weekly show, as always. So it's been a good night talking some Canadian football, as we do here every Wednesday night at 6 o'clock sharp till about 7:30. Go for about an hour and a half, 90 minutes or so. And we will see you guys next day, Wednesday night. So have a good night and enjoy the weekend, everybody.